I got a video request from a fellow YouTuber, so I thought it was such a wow request. I'd like to give a big shout out to Triumphant Train 2002. Now his request was, how can you give Talking James, both versions, a red footplate? If you want to see more videos like this or any of those I've already uploaded, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Well, I'm going to split that question into two videos, and this is part one based on the interactive talking trains. Now the reason for that is you have interactive talking trains, and I believe there are only 10 of them. If you know different, please leave a comment in the comment section below, because I'd love to collect more of these trains if there are any. And then you have talking trains, and I believe there are 19. Now, I'd like to start by looking at all of the other trains other than the two suggested trains by Triumphant Train 2002. Now, he suggested swapping Edward and James, their running plates, to make Edward black and James red. Now, I think they'd look absolutely amazing. But before we go into that question, I'd like to have a look at the other 8 vehicles to see if any other modifications can be made. Well, with Harold, I don't believe there's any modifications that you could do to Harold unless you were to put stickers on him. The same would apply to Bertie the bus, because there are no other buses or helicopters. The only modifications you could make to those two would be to apply stickers. Now that's not necessarily the case with the other 6 engines. 5 of them have got red running plates and Lady has got a black running plate. So in theory it may be possible to use Lady to modify one of the others. But there's many things to consider. So let's have a look at Lady, and let's have a look at the things that you'd have to consider. You'd have to consider the position of her activation button. You'd have to consider how the batteries are fitted, and you'd have to consider whether the wheelbase and the length of the train is the same as any other. So let's compare her to Mavis. Now Mavis is the same length. Mavis looks like her activation button is in a different position, so Mavis could not be modified using Lady unless you were to create an internal contraption to enable you to activate using the normal button. Let's have a look at Peter Sam. Now again, Peter Sam is the same length. Now Peter Sam's activation button is in a different place as well. So you'd have the same problem with Peter Sam. Let's have a look at Oliver. Yep, no, same thing again. I think that Lady is such a unique train. It's looking like she can't be used to modify anyone. And yet that's the case with Thomas as well. Let's have a look at Percy. Well, Percy actually lines up with Lady. So in theory, Percy could be modified, and he's the only one of the other 5 trains that could be modified using Lady. So you could put a black running board or plate on Percy and perhaps put a red one on Lady. The only problem is with these interactive trains is internals don't allow you to remove the LEDs. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at Percy and see if Percy will allow us to remove his cover to his LEDs. Now I do already know what the problem is once you take this off. So we've now got Percy open to reveal his LEDs. Now the problem is the hole that the wires go through is much smaller than the size of the LEDs. So the only way that you could take that off and change any plate instinct would be to unsolder the LED and then feed the wires through. When these were manufactured, I would assume that the wires were fed through and then the LED was applied. Now that's something that I'm not able to do because one, I'm not skilled enough, and two, these trains are so rare, I'm not prepared to risk damaging the train to try and customize a running board from Percy to Lady. However, in the future, if I do manage to pick up a couple of trains cheaply, it may be something that I'll be prepared to do in the future. But I've only got one of each of these. I've got all 10, so my collection is complete. But in answering Triumphant Train 2002's video request, his actual request was, could James and Edward swap running board? Now, to be honest, they are identical on the top. Let's have a look at the bottom. They seem identical on the bottom. Now, the thing is, I don't know whether they're identical internally, because once again, I've only got one of these and I don't want to open them and destroy them just in case it's possible to swap a running plate. But in answer to the question, I believe it would be possible to swap James and Edward's running plate. Now once again, if I get these trains duplicate in the future, it may be something that I'd be prepared to do, but as we speak, I only have one of each and I'm not prepared to damage them to answer such a fantastic video suggestion practically. So just to sum up, theoretically, it is possible to change both James's and Edward's running plate. It would also be possible to change Lady's and Percy's running plate, but this could only be confirmed after opening all four trains to see if the internal positioning of switches and lugs and things are all the same. And the reason why I say you might destroy them is, as soon as you open these trains, because they're so old, there's a risk that the wires come off and you then have to resolder. There's definitely a risk because the battery compartment is held in under this roof compartment. So you'd have to take off the roof compartment, you have to pull out the battery compartment. It's a really complex job, and at this moment in time I don't have duplicates, so it's not a risk I'm prepared to take. I hope you found this information and video useful. I do apologise that I couldn't open my trains and actually try it out physically, but I hope you understand they're far too important to damage. Well, thanks for watching. Please leave a like, please subscribe, and I hope to see you all again soon.